Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Advisory and Adjustment Committee meeting of Monday, August the 31st, 2026. And prior to us starting the meeting, I'd like to read to you the Pembroke Land Acknowledgement Statement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of this committee of council and the city of Pembroke that we reside on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. Call the meeting to order now, and can we have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Moved by Marcel, second by Romeo. All in favor? Carry, thank you. The minutes of July the 27th, 2026 having been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions to these minutes? Ed?
I'll move that be adopted.
Good, thank you very much. Seconder? Ian, all in favor? Carried, thank you very much. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on then to new business. The first one is Z6 2026, 192 Deacon Street, 194 Deacon Street, 763 McKay Street, 801 McKay Street, and 805 McKay Street by JP2G Consultants Incorporated. Colleen.
Good afternoon. So the applicant, Catherine Curry and Anthony Homick of JP2G Consultants, on behalf of their client, Pembroke Regional Hospital, has submitted an official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for 5 properties municipally known as 192 Deacon, 194 Deacon, 763 McKay Street, 801 McKay Street, and 805 McKay Street. The intent of the application is to facilitate the development of an additional parking area for the hospital. The properties have been assembled by the hospital over the last number of years with the intention of consolidating the lands to construct additional parking facilities. The subject lands are located southeast of the intersection of Deacon and McKay Streets. The surrounding land uses include the Renfrew County Paramedic Base, the regional hospital to the north, the existing Pembroke Regional Hospital parking lot, and residential uses to the east, residential uses to the south, and residential uses to the west, which is across from McKay Street. The subject lands are primarily vacant and cleared with some trees, and there is an existing dwelling located at 192 Deacon Street. The majority of the subject lands are zoned institutional type 14, and in the official plan, they are designated as institutional. The property municipally known as 805 McKay Street is currently designated residential and zoned residential type 2. The proposed official plan amendment is required to change the designation of 805 McKay from residential to institutional in order to facilitate the proposed parking lot. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would subsequently expand the existing I-14 zone to include 805 McKay. The existing I-14 zone contains site-specific landscaping requirements for the hospital parking area. The proposed amendment would revise those provisions so that a minimum of 2.4 meter buffer strip is required along the lot lines abutting residential zones, and that provide a minimum 1 meter buffer strip is required along Deacon Street and along McKay Street. These provisions will provide appropriate buffering between the proposed parking areas surrounding residential properties and public streets. The existing I-14 zone also contains a provision requiring that the building municipally known as 192 Deacon Street be used as an office and not be removed without an amendment to the zoning bylaw. The proposed amendment would remove this provision, allowing for the removal of the dwelling as part of the construction of the proposed parking area. The proposed parking area is intended to be developed through a future site plan control application. As such, detailed matters relating to the final layout, landscaping, buffering, snow removal, drainage, access, and other specific considerations would be reviewed through the site plan control process. The Provincial Planning Statement 2024 directs that infrastructure and public service facilities shall be provided in an efficient manner while accommodating projected needs. The proposed development will expand the hospital's existing parking facilities to accommodate current and projected parking needs and will support the continued delivery of healthcare services to residents of Pembroke and surrounding communities. The official plan also provides guidance related to public service uses. It requires that public service uses be necessary in the area, compatible with their surroundings, and provide adequate off-street parking and loading and satisfy applicable site plan control requirements. The proposed parking area is necessary to support the continued operation of the hospital and to provide additional parking in close proximity to the hospital. The official plan specifically encourages public use service uses that are complementary or interrelated to key facilities such as the hospital. The proposed parking area is directly related to and intended to support the continued operation and growth of the Pembroke Regional Hospital. The proposed redesignation of 805 McKay Street from residential to institutional will allow the property to form part of a comprehensive parking area serving the hospital, and this makes the proposal highly in keeping with the intent of the institutional designation. The official plan also requires buffering and landscaping between residential uses and the institutional uses. The proposed amendments to the I-14 zone will establish the 2.4 meter buffer along the lot lines abutting residential zones, and again, the 1 meter buffer along Deakin and McKay Streets. The official plan also provides that parking capacity within the city should be increased to satisfy anticipated increasing traffic volumes and parking needs arising from new development and redevelopment, as well as to alleviate inadequate parking capacity in already developed areas. The proposed development directly addresses this objective by providing additional parking capacity for the hospital and reducing the potential for parking spillover into surrounding residential areas. The proposed amendment to the I-14 zone to permit the removal of the dwelling at 192 Deakin Street is considered appropriate. The removal of the dwelling is required to allow the hospital to efficiently construct the proposed parking area, and resulting lands will form part of a comprehensive expansion of the existing hospital parking facilities. The 2.4 meter buffer standard has already been established through the existing I-14 zoning as an appropriate standard for the hospital's parking facilities. The proposed amendment would apply the same standard consistently along the lot lines abutting the residential zones. The landscaping and minimum planting requirements of the zoning bylaw will continue to apply and ensure that there is an effective visual screen that can be maintained. All other applicable provisions of the zoning bylaw will continue to apply to the proposed development. The future site plan control application will provide an opportunity for the city to again review details that will look at landscaping, buffering, drainage, access, parking, and other site development matters. The planning department is recommending the approval of the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for 192 Deakin, 194 Deakin, 763 McKay, 801 McKay, and 805 McKay Street, as the application is in keeping with the intents of the zoning bylaw, official plan, and provincial planning statement.
Thank you, Colleen. Colleen, were there any submissions received regarding this application?
There was one informational inquiry, and there was a gentleman who's here this evening, Mr. Roy Mullen, who had some concerns and met with our planner, Owen Hutt.
Would you like to speak to the application then, please?
Thank you and good evening, Chair and members of committee. My name is Catherine Curry. I'm a planner with JP2G Consultants, and I'm joined here this evening by Anthony Homick, who's a senior planner at JP2G Consultants. JP2G has been retained by the Pembroke Regional Hospital to assist with designing and securing the necessary municipal approvals for a new parking lot for the hospital at the intersection of Deakin Street and McKay Street. The official plan and zoning bylaw amendments in front of you this evening are the first step to facilitate the future parking area. It will be followed by a site plan control application, which I am to understand is being submitted shortly. I'd like to thank Colleen for the detailed overview of the application. I don't have much to add, but I'd like to take the opportunity to emphasize a few points and address some of the comments we've received to date. As Colleen mentioned, the applications are twofold. The first is the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for 805 McKay Street, which redesignates and rezones the property from residential to institutional. The second part of the proposal is to amend the wording of the existing institutional exception 14 zone to recognize that 805 McKay is now within the proposed parking area and to permit the removal of the dwelling at 192 Deacon Street to allow for additional parking spaces. The proposed amendments will provide much needed additional parking with the current draft concept plan before you showing 122 spaces. An application for site plan control. Oh, sorry, I already said that. We understand that there are some concerns from the property owner of 186 Deacon Street related to drainage, buffering, fencing, the retention of existing trees, and lighting. As shown on the preliminary site plan provided to you this evening, we are providing a minimum 2.4 meter buffer between the parking area and the property lines around 186 Deacon, and we're proposing a 1.8 meter, 6 foot high privacy fence around his property as well, abutting the parking area. The zoning bylaw requires a vegetative buffer of a minimum height of 5 feet, which can include a fence to provide visual separation from the parking lot to adjacent residential uses. We are open to working with Mr. Mullen to retain the existing vegetation wherever possible. With regard to drainage, the site will be designed to avoid negative drainage impacts on Mr. Mullen's property and other adjacent residential properties. Lighting has not yet been located on the site plan. However, lighting will be dark sky compliant and will have what are known as cutoffs to ensure that there are no light spillover onto Mr. Mullen's property. These are all details that will be fleshed out during the site plan control application process. We recognize that Mr. Mullen has some concerns, and we will make our best efforts to balance these with the hospital's urgent need for more parking. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other interested parties that would like to speak to the application? Yes. Could you? Thank you. Could you state your name, please? And
Hi, my name is Roy Mullen, and I prepared a little statement here. I've passed it around so that everybody can sing along if they'd like. I'd like to introduce myself and tell you the reasons that I am here today. My name is Roy Mullen, and I live at 186 Deacon Street and have become the only residential property left between McKay Street and Cecilia Street. This is my childhood home, and I have witnessed many changes in my 70 years. I do understand that change is a constant phenomenon in our lives, and I want to address how these changes will affect my abilities to enjoy my home, my property, and my privacy. I have what is referred to as conditional acceptance of these proposals and would like to explain my concerns. I'm very interested in the results of the survey that was on and around my property to determine what trees and vegetation are mine and what belong to the hospital. I understand that the hospital has the right to remove anything that is on their property, but my concerns are how the removal will affect the roots and health of the trees and vegetation on my side, as some are on or very close to the property line. I have concerns about the upcoming demolition of 192 Deacon Street and how to limit the dust and debris from coming onto my property. I have concerns about the digging and filling and having the heavy equipment so close to the foundation, to my foundation walls. Mr. Godbout, who is representing the hospital, came to my door last week to inform me of the surveyors coming on Friday, September the 28th. He also mentioned that he would like to be a good neighbor. It was over 100 years ago that Robert Frost coined the phrase, "Good fences make good neighbors." and I believe this is one of my main concerns. In my discussions with Mr. Godbout, I have learned that a buffer zone of 2.4 meters around the east, west, and south parts of my property. There was also talk of a berm that might exist in this zone and a privacy fence that might sit on the high points of this structure. I'm not sure, but how high can an institutional fence be for privacy concerns? I would like to know how the berm will affect the drainage of my property. And will the fence be on the line or in the buffer zone? And can there be new trees or other vegetation in this zone? Will the only entrance to this new lot be on Deacon Street? And how will it affect the tranquility of my neighborhood with the increased traffic volume? This increase will bring noise and the exhaust fumes of over 100 vehicles coming, parking, and leaving on a daily basis. There will be a symphony of car horns going off every time someone locks their vehicle or triggers a car alarm. I have concerns about where the lighting will be and how it will extend onto my property at night. Can there be shielding or reflectors of some sort to prevent my lot from being overexposed to the lighting and provide privacy? I have concerns of how the garbage and debris will be collected to keep the lot clean and help keep animals and insects away. It was just last month that I witnessed a groundhog, a raccoon, and a small red fox looking to make their home at 192. I have concerns of how the snow will be removed in the winter and not just pushed up against the fences. Will there be heavy equipment operating around my property late at night? Smoking is another issue around my property. There does not seem to be a designated smoking area for the hospital, and all the cigarettes are being discarded wherever. Mr. Godbout has indicated that he will apply for temporary parking at 192 Deacon Street. And my question is, can temporary barriers be put in place during this process to provide my privacy? As a taxpayer in Pembroke, I believe that I should be entitled to the quiet, peaceful enjoyment of my home and my property. And I hope that this can be achieved with the help of a good fence and a good neighbor on the other side. I'd like to leave you with some wisdom from a great Canadian icon. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my concerns today.
Thank you. Any members of the committee who'd like to ask questions? Yes, Ian.
So I understand the 2.4 meter buffer zone is site specific. What's the normal buffer between an institutional and residential property?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's 3 meters.
So, okay. So I don't know why we would grant less in this. So just as a general concern, I do realize the council's already approved some of these in prior councils. I'm not sure when. But basically, as far as I can tell, what's happened here is the hospital's bought up a whole bunch of properties, hoping to eventually put in more parking, which I think everybody on this committee is going to be pleased with the idea of there being more parking at the hospital. I don't know of anybody that has an issue with that. But I mean, this isn't the game of Monopoly. You don't get to build something just because you've bought in 3 things in a row. We're basically putting a parking lot. We're basically turning this man's house into an island in the middle of an institutional zone, which I certainly would have a problem with. I would imagine many people have a problem with. And yet Mr. Mullen is here not saying that he's opposed to it. He's saying that he has conditions, which I have to give Mr. Mullen great respect for, not just beating on the door and saying go away, because I mean, I wouldn't personally like this. And I will say, from a personal standpoint, I do have a house that backs onto a municipal parking lot, and I got to tell you, it does come with issues. Parking lots do tend to have snow cleared in the middle of the night, which means at 2 a.m. you are listening to nothing but backup beeping sounds for an hour, and that's annoying. Obviously, Ms. Sorio, you and I spoke about that before this meeting, and the response was, well, that's actually exempted from our noise bylaw. It might be exempted from the noise bylaw, but it doesn't take the noise away when you're trying to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning and all you're hearing is beeping and beeping and more beeping. And a lot of these parking lots, it's they're not, it's not even trucks with a plow, it's front end loaders and stuff, and you hear that hitting the ground when they're clearing the snow. The light pollution, again, we are literally surrounding this man's house with a parking lot. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know there's another member of our council who has dealt with this very applicant and the issue of lighting in the past. So I certainly don't want Mr. Mullen's property to be lit up like a park. And I hear from JP2G that, those are issues that can be taken care of, but I just want everybody to know that I'm taking this one I don't think I have seen this term something so extensively island in a way that what we're doing to this gentleman's residential house. With respect to the fence, Mr. Mullen, perhaps a question for you. So I think this is looking at a 6 foot high fence. Is that what we heard? Is a 6 foot high fence sufficient for you, Mr. Mullen, or were you hoping for something more?
I was hoping for more. I'm not sure, like you just brought up a point that I was ignorant of the 3-meter zone as opposed to the 2.4. And I would have spoken to this if I had have known that 3 meters is a standard, because of the existing, as you can see from the nice colored picture that's here, there's nothing but hedges and trees around my property. I'd like to keep some of them if I could. And I mean, the healthy ones, if they can be inspected and allowed to remain on where they exist, that would be wonderful. A 5-foot fence is not, I thought you could get a 6 foot, or even institutionally, is it possible to get a higher fence?
So one of my questions, thank you, Mr. Mullen, is going to be, can we approve a further variance that would allow that? Because I got to give you a lot of respect for not coming here and saying, I'm just saying no. You're coming here with specific concerns, which we don't always get. I will tell you, sometimes we do get people that are just like, I'm against this, I don't want this happening. And I give you a lot of credit for that. So I am, in fact, trying to piece all of these things together to see if we can get you what you're hoping for. We've approved a higher fence just recently. I want to say maybe 2-3 months ago at this committee. I would be happy to, I forget what we approved. I think it was 8 or 10. I mean, ultimately, I suppose if I might recommend to this committee that we approve of a 10, whether 10 is needed at the end of the day, because I hope you'll be involved with the site plan agreement. I think us maybe approving more than what is needed, whether it needs to be that high or not, still gives
Well,
you the
that's a
option.
good question, because when I look out the back window of my house, I will be able to see the cars that are parked behind me. Even with a 7 or 8 foot fence, I will probably see the last row of those cars.
Well, if you can see them, I'm assuming they can see you.
Yes, and this is
Just-
part of what my concerns are, but I thank you for bringing up that point.
So certainly, I guess my issues at the moment are with the 2.4 meter buffer zone and why it can't be what, again, when we do these official plans and when we do these zoning bylaws, we're passing them with the expectation that this is what things should be. I realize that there can always be variances and whatnot, but I mean, somebody at some point thought that it should be 3 meters. I'm wondering why, when we're creating an island on you, that we would go less than that. I would like us to take a look at the fence situation. I do have concerns about the vegetation, and Mr. Mullen, you wouldn't know this, but I'll tell you why I have concerns, and that is because we did have one come before our council, I think last year, where the developer said to us, I plan on keeping as many trees as possible. And then they clear cut the lot. that, that concerns me. And I'm not saying that, I'm certainly not saying the hospital doesn't want to work with you. I'm just saying that's a concern of mine based on a prior completely separate thing. Is, we were told, well, the site planning has to happen, and I'm telling you, I'm not going to clear cut the vegetation, but then, that's exactly what happened. So I have that kind of an issue with respect to this. I don't know. I think at this point, I just, do we know from JP2, like, when does the site plan expect to come down? And have we met with Mr. Mullen? I don't know that staff have, but has any of us done like a site walkthrough with Mr. Mullen to talk about the site plan and talk about I guess where I'm going with this is I'm wondering if this is a little premature based on these specific issues, and whether this is something that couldn't come back with more answers to more of these questions. But I'll leave that for now, Mr. Chair.
Romeo.
No need to repeat everything that Councillor Keel has touched on, but there are some things I'd like to elaborate on. You hit on the buffer zone. That hit me right away. That I know I don't know why it's shorter than what we expect in other areas. I understand that the hospital probably wants to get its biggest bang for its buck and have more parking, and I can appreciate that. But on the other hand, I think we've created a situation here, and it's funny how things creep up on you. And Mr. Baldwin kind of hinted at that you don't kind of realize what the end situation is going to be until about most of them have all been completed. It's like the situation that the president of a state south of us that gets things done, goes ahead and gets everything done, and then bang, all of a sudden he's got to ask for forgiveness, and because things have been completed. And I certainly have no beef with the planning report, but I do think we've got a situation here where we're going to have to deal with it's really an exceptional situation. It's not the kind of thing we're going to meet. We're isolating a property, and I think that the city has to do everything they can to create what I call an urban oasis for this property. In other words, I consider my property, by the way, Mr. Mullen, my parking lot, my property backs on the parking lot on the east side of the hospital. So I've been through this quite a while ago, but I'm outside of the range, so I'm not in conflict. I just want to make sure I'm not in conflict here. But that was one of the things that we were concerned about. I recall, and I'm sure that this is something that's going to be looked at. The buffer zone of 2.4, it's not enough. And not only that, but the perimeter of this property should have a concrete barrier high enough to stop a runaway car to jam in there. I am not picking something out of the ordinary here. It's happened to a property owner on our street where the car went right through the park, right through the fencing. And so I think this is one of the things that you have to be wary about. It's got to be proof. And I think we're looking at a certain amount of barrier, and there's got to be trees, vegetation. It is so important. And I can actually say from experience that the vegetation you put at the back of my property has worked. We got big, beautiful trees there, but you have to put them in there, and don't come up with these little trees. They planted some good sized trees, and right now I can say it's comfortable, but it eliminates some of the noise. I mean, I still hear I know it has to be done, but the snow clearing in the winter time and things of that sort. I mean, I accept that. I accept that in my particular situation. But I think we have to make sure we create, and I'll repeat it, an urban oasis for this particular property. And there are certain rules that we're going to have to set aside. They may not follow appropriate, proper planning principles as laid down by the province and as laid down by certain laws that we've set up over the years. This is an exception here, and I think we have to treat it that way. And I'm hoping that through the site plan control process, that we make sure that these items are in there. I'm like Councillor Keel. Gee, I wish we could go back, but I don't think we can. I'm a realist. And so what we got to do is act accordingly and create a situation which is acceptable to this homeowner.
Thank you, Romeo. Ed? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yes, first.
Mr. Chair, just a
Yes.
couple of comments. I think if I'm right, that the fence would go above the berm. The fence behind the Pembroke Regional Hospital, behind Romeo's house, is above the berm, if I'm correct. And it raises it up to about, God, it's got to be a good 10 feet, Romeo. So with the berm, if the fence is going up on the berm, the way I see it, because they wouldn't put the berm and then the fence on the far side, it'll be quite high. That's number one. Number two is I just want an explanation from Mr. Mullen as I guess, Mr. Mullen, if I read you right, you're saying conditional acceptance is accepting this based on the fact that you want some of these items straightened out.
Absolutely.
So therefore, I agree with Romeo in saying that once we do this, let's make sure that Mr. Mullen's Island is well protected. There are quite a few trees there, and some of them are good trees. I know that area with the trees because one of the gentlemen back there years back had asked me to cut the trees, and I refused. I said, no, because you might damage some of the other trees. It's a big cluster. And I would think that if some of those trees are left there, there's no way a car will be able to come through, Romeo, other than the far end. But those are items that I think, you know, both Councillor Keel and yourself, Romeo, are saying that can be dealt with quite easily in just dealing with the site at the time, especially if we get a good site plan, that we can say, okay, this is acceptable. But there will be issues with the snow removal for sure. That's, I think Mr. Mullen's gonna have to live with that because in a zone where you have this kind of a institution, you're going to have the snow removal problem. You know, you look at the mall where they remove the snow during the middle of the night, schools, anyone around the schools, you have that noise of the beep, 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 and it's difficult. That I don't think can be solved, but I think the other issues, I think I would say 90% of them can be easily resolved to make Mr. Mullen's Island livable. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Marcel. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in a bit of a quandary here. Mr. Mullen's presentation about this being his childhood home, you know, that draws at your heartstrings. And I can truly understand that. And I know that his mother had great, great love for this home herself. She had a beautiful flower garden in the back that I had the privilege to attend. I think it may have been close to her 100th birthday. And I think her, I present her with a plaque on behalf of the city of Pembroke when I was in the mayor's chair. And the beauty of the garden itself was something that you would not believe. It was, you know, in the middle of nowhere. And there's this beautiful little rose garden attended to by your mother, of course, with great care and love and compassion, I'm sure. And that's what brought her to her longevity. I think she had a place to go. My only concern is even with the, the concessions that may be met or improved on, I still feel, I don't know if you'll still be happy there, Mr. Mullen, because of the snow removal sounds and the lighting. And I mean, it's unfortunate that it's like a Pac-Man game. Everything has been gobbled up around you. And here you are. I mean, obviously you want to stay there for as long as you can. And I can sympathize with that. But even with the concessions that are being made, do you feel, through Mr. Chair, through you, that those conditions would be met and you'd be happy?
Thank you for your question. It's something that I have thought about greatly over the last few years since my mom has passed. And I think that if we can work together, if the hospital can be a good neighbor, if I can believe what can be done and should be done, if you can expand the buffer zone to 3 meters, if you can create a little larger fence for my privacy, absolutely, these are my concerns. I don't want to go against what the hospital needs because I understand. I've lived there most of my life. I know how busy it can get. And there's only so much, you're right, that can be done. And I am very happy to hear some of the proposals, Mr. Lavester. I'm very happy to hear the words that you have spoken today. That has made me feel much better that someone is concerned and understands the situation that I am in. And to be a good neighbor, it means that you have to be flexible and you have to work around institutions in your life. And I'm here willing to do that because I want to be a good neighbor too.
Thank you. Ed?
My final comment, Mr. Chair, is in my heart, I feel even with the amenities that'll come forward, that the problem will still exist. There'll be loud noise levels. You're going to have the car horns honking. You can't reduce the decibel of a car horn. If somebody's got, hit their emergency button late at night and you're in bed, I really can't see how, that you would be happy. And I'm speaking on your behalf as though I were you. And as I said, I'm torn between here and there, but I still think those, even with the high buffers and, the vegetation set, et cetera, I think that you will still be exposed to those high sounds and the snow removal. I don't think they'll buffer it that much, my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Marie.
Um, I can only agree with the idea of having maybe a higher fence and respecting the 3-meter buffer zone, because everything that's been said is sensible. And I'm trying to put myself in Mr. Mullen's shoes, and I wouldn't want to be on that little island, to be honest. Now, in terms of the noise, I'm a bit flabbergasted that the bylaw doesn't apply to institutional properties. Is that what you said? Did I hear that properly? The noise
The
bylaw?
noise bylaw does not, for snow removal.
For
it
snow
does not
removal.
apply For snow removal, because we're in Canada and the lots have to be cleaned for the mornings.
Okay, that is very unfortunate. Although I kind of understand why, but it is unfortunate. So what do we do with this proposal now with regards to the fence, the buffer zone?
Yeah.
So I would seek staff direction and maybe JP2G's direction as well. Well, JP2G hasn't even chimed in yet. Number one, can the buffer around the property be increased to 3 meters? And can tonight we amend that? Then with respect to the fence, I would be willing to propose that we increase that to 10 feet. And can that be done tonight? And then everything else, I think, is site planning. So my proposal, and I do want to hear from JP2G on this, and I want to hear from staff, but my suggestion would be that we deal with a 3-meter buffer zone tonight. We deal with a 10-foot fence tonight, and that the other things be left to the site planning that I would expect Mr. Mullen is going to be involved in. I think those are the only two things we would have to address tonight. And then Mr. Mullen, you and staff and JP2G, the finer details of the other things aren't bylaw related, they're site planning related. So that would be dealt with after the fact. So I'm wondering if all of that can come together I think we would have perhaps Mr. Mullins' issues taken care of, at least with respect to the bylaws, and then the parties can deal with the finer details in the site planning, if that works for JP2G and for staff.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I support what's just been come. I've been thinking about tabling this thing until there's been a lot more work done between the two parties and then come back to us. But I'll hold off on that for a moment. I would add also that within the buffer zone, which I agree, increase it to 3 feet, if not 4 meters. Okay. The vegetation that's on that part does not get cut down. I think if I recall now, there are some small trees and so on that are on that piece of property. Leave them, they stay as part of the buffer zone. So it will help for the sounding. So if staff is agreeable to add that comment to Councillor Keels, then I would be in favor of what has been stated.
So are we ready for a motion?
No,
Sorry.
I feel-
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel like, yes, there certainly are a lot of comments that I should address, and thank you, Councillor Keel, for the prompt. I feel like there wasn't really an explicit question to us yet, so I'm glad for the opportunity to say a few more words further to what Catherine said at the beginning. I mean, with all due respect to Mr. Mullen, I certainly sympathize with the situation that you find yourself in. We could certainly consider increasing the buffer strip to 3 meters, which, as we've discussed, is what's required in the parent zoning. As Catherine mentioned, the 2.4 meter has already been established as the minimum buffer around the rest of the hospital parking lot. That's in the zoning for the hospital parking. So we were attempting to apply that standard around this home. If council chooses, or if the recommendation here is to increase it to 3 and the council chooses to refuse that portion of our application, it's only at the expense of more parking for the hospital. We'll have to lose parking spaces to make that fit. So we're proposing, as I mentioned, to include that buffer strip that's already been established as appropriate for the hospital parking writ large. With respect to the vegetation that's in place, we are certainly happy to work with Mr. Mullen, work with staff with respect to what can remain. It's definitely going to be a delicate balance, though, because some of that, I'm certainly looking at the one property line where you've got a really big, nice, mature cedar. If you want a 10-foot high fence in there, we're probably going to have to cut some of that cedar back to get a fence in there. So there's definitely some give and take with respect to that, the details that we can incorporate in the site plan control application. I think the hospital would be more than willing to build a 10-foot fence if council sees fit to add that to the application. I don't know if we have to formally add that to our application before tomorrow, but I think the hospital would be happy to build an extra 2 feet of fence. But we would, with respect, oppose the suggestion of pushing that buffer strip out to 3 meters. I think we can work with Mr. Mullen to accomplish an appropriate amount of buffering and separation between the two uses in the 2.4 meters. This, as Catherine mentioned, stormwater will all be managed appropriately in the parking lot according to good engineering practice. So all stormwater will be directed away from his property, and obviously all the other properties around the area. We're not just this property. Any of the other adjacent properties will be appropriately managed. Catherine just mentioned, I think we should discuss the berm. I'm not 100% sure where the suggestion of the berm around Mr. Mullen's property came from. I'm not sure if that's something that Mr. Godbout mentioned. But the current proposal would not be to include a berm in there. Even at 3 meters, you're not going to get much of a berm with how much sloping you need to build that to appropriate engineering standard. But all that to say, we're certainly committed to working with Mr. Mullen as a company. I think the hospital, as everybody would understand, is committed to being a good neighbor. The hospital's been around for a long time and intends to stay here, but there is a really urgent need for more parking at the hospital. And we're trying to find the right balance here, and we're trying to accommodate, quite simply, as much parking as possible for the hospital because they just don't have enough. It's not necessarily land use planning matters, but the hospital has explained to us that it's difficult to attract residents. It's difficult to attract staff when you can't guarantee them a parking space. And sometimes they haven't been able to do that. So we are trying to simply provide as much parking as possible for the hospital. while maintaining what we believe are the appropriate measures to buffer and provide some sense of privacy to Mr. Mullen. And I think to Councillor Jacquino's points, increasing that buffer by 2 feet isn't unfortunately going to do anything about the noise from plows. A 10-foot high fence would certainly help with visual, but the noise concerns will remain. And so I think that probably hits all of the points that I've heard. So I'll leave it at that, that any increase in the buffer strip is just simply going to come at the expense of parking for the hospital. Thank you.
Yes. Marie,
please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yes, like increasing the buffer zone would come at the expense of parkings, but the way I look at it, it looks like the hospital is, with this proposal, is probably more or close to doubling its parking capacity. Can you confirm, like, what's the factor of increase here?
I don't, through Mr. Chair, through you, Mr. Chair, I don't believe it's doubling, but I don't have that number at my fingertips.
Okay.
We could certainly provide that to staff tomorrow. I think we could do the count, but I don't have the answer for you.
Okay, and increasing the 3 meter to 3 meter zone would probably, I'm looking at the plan here and it looks like it would take maybe 10 parking spots. It doesn't seem that critical.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't even think it would be 10. It would be several parking spaces. We'd have to study it a little bit further, but we would lose parking spaces. And, as I said, if the hospital wants to continue to expand, they're planning for not just next year, we're planning for 25 years down the road.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, I'd like to address something that perhaps is unknown. As much as everyone from JP2G Consultants has talked about my situation, this is the first time I've ever met anyone, and I haven't actually met them yet. So there has been no discussion. There has been no back and forth. There has been no questions. Mr. Godbout from the hospital is the only one that I have addressed with my concerns so far. So I am open to discussion. I am open, and I would actually like to get to meet you when this meeting is over, perhaps. Thank you.
Thank you. Ian.
I would be prepared to move that we accepted with the amendments that were proposed earlier. Oh, we still didn't hear from staff as to whether we can do my plan. Sorry.
Seconder. Yes.
Can I just, yes, so what we would do then is, normally we have a week in between this meeting and planning and council, but we only have one night. So what we would do is, in the motion, you would indicate that you would like to see a 10-foot high fence, and that you would like to see a 3 meter buffer. And then that's reported then tomorrow evening by the chair of planning to the rest of council. And then at that point, direction would be given. And then in 2 weeks, a bylaw would come before council. And in that bylaw, then it would say that the fence height of 10 feet would be permitted. And it wouldn't say anything about it would say the buffer would be the requirement as in the zoning bylaw of 3 meters.
I'm prepared to move that and allow you to work the language of my motion.
Seconder.
What I find missing in there, Mr. Chairman, is that Mr. Mantha alluded to it, and I did. What protection is going to be around the property for a car not to go through? See, I'm thinking about behind the whole section of the parking lot right now, which runs east-west behind my place, behind Glenwood Drive. There's a concrete curb. It's a good concrete curb. And so I haven't heard anything about having a bit of a curb there going around the property. No, I'm talking about here.
Okay, Yeah, so maybe we
Yes.
could ask JP2G to answer that, Anthony.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, yes,
Yes.
there is a full height barrier curb proposed around the entirety of the parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
So you're okay? Is it
I'm
seconded?
okay then. I'm prepared.
Any further discussion? All in, oh, yes, yes.
One point, if, in the areas where there is no vegetation or trees, could there be a Jersey barrier of sorts to prevent such a runaway car or any type of someone in snow removal equipment going too far?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that could be dealt with during site plan. So that's not something that the zoning bylaw particularly addresses. But that will, like with the drainage and the snow removal locations and the lighting, that will all be part of site plan.
Thank you. Call the motion. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you very much.
So,
yes, yes.
so just so that everyone's aware,
Yes.
tomorrow evening, is the public meeting of council at 6 p.m. So, Mr. Mullen, if you're interested in coming again tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and I'll make sure that members of council have your package, okay? And it'll be the same kind of format as this evening, where I will state my report. JP2G will be there to talk about, their report as well. And then you will be there to indicate any concerns that you do have. Okay, so tomorrow at 6 o'clock, absolutely repeat it, because it's going to be a different, other than Councillor Keel and Councillor Jackno, it's going to be a different audience, different here. So, okay, okay.
Thank you for your compassion.
So, our next item is A8 26 100 Upper Valley Drive, Sean and Dennison. Michaela. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Through you,
Yes,
Mr.
thank you.
Chair.
Yes.
The applicant Sean Dennison has submitted a minor variance application for the property to be municipally known as 100 Upper Valley Drive. The future property is a sale of city-owned land in the Trans-Can Business Park. Mr. Dennison proposes the development of a warehouse for his business, Rye J's Climbing Adventures. Mr. Dennison's proposed development will meet all applicable provisions of the zoning bylaw for a warehouse, including setback requirements. However, due to the configuration of the remaining lands for sale in the business park, the minimum lot frontage requirement of 100 feet is unable to be met. 100 Upper Valley Drive is zoned economic enterprise M2 by the zoning bylaw, which requires a minimum lot frontage of 100 feet. The applicant is requesting relief of 40 feet from this provision to permit a proposed lot frontage of 60 feet. All other requirements for an economic enterprise lot, including the minimum lot area, are able to be met and exceeded. The requested relief can be considered minor in nature, as the general industrial zone under section 14.2 of the zoning bylaw permits a minimum lot frontage of 60 feet, while the economic enterprise M2 zone requires a minimum lot frontage of 100 feet. The proposed 60-foot lot frontage is consistent with the minimum lot frontage permitted within the general industrial zone, while relief is required from the greater frontage requirement applicable to the economic enterprise zone. The requested relief is required due to the configuration of the remaining land available for sale within the Trans-Can Park, which limits the available options for accommodating proposed lot configuration. The proposed minor variance will facilitate the creation of an industrial lot while maintaining the intended use of the property. 100 Upper Valley Drive is designated economic enterprise by Schedule A of the official plan. Regarding this designation, Section 4.7.1 of the official plan states that council recognizes the need to provide for economic development opportunities in areas located outside of the central commercial area. It is the intent of council to encourage the development of this area. As this application will facilitate development of a property within the economic enterprise designation, this application can be viewed as completely in keeping with the intent of the official plan. The provincial planning statement, section 2.8.1, promotes economic development and competitiveness by providing a mix of employment uses to meet the long-term needs and providing opportunities for a diversified economic base. The proposed minor variance will facilitate the creation of an industrial lot within Transcan Park while maintaining the intended employment use of the property. The proposed minor variance is therefore in keeping with the intent of the provincial planning statement. The proposed minor variance will allow for the creation of an appropriately configured industrial lot within the remaining lands available in the Transcan Park. The proposed 60-foot lot frontage will maintain the functionality of the proposed lot while providing an appropriate use of the available land. The requested variance maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw and is desirable for the appropriate development of the property. The planning department recommends that the committee approve the minor variance application for relief from the minimum lot frontage required for a lot in an economic enterprise M2 zone for 100 Upper Valley Drive. The relief requested is minor in nature, is consistent with the character of and desirable within the neighborhood, and is in keeping with the intents of the zoning bylaw, official plan, and provincial planning statement. Thank you.
Michaela. Were there any submissions received regarding this application, Michaela?
No, there was not.
Good, thank you. Comments? Yes, Ian.
So in some ways, I guess the city kind of did this to ourselves. We granted a provisional purchase on one side, and we granted a provisional purchase on the other side, and 60 meters is what's left. So I have no problems approving this. My only question to Colleen, which I wish I would have thought of earlier, but I didn't until right now, is do we know that it is 60 meters or sorry, do we know that it's 60 feet, or are we potentially going to get a survey that says 59 and I'll have to come back and do this again? I guess that's my only question. Otherwise, I'm obviously fine with approving this.
See the file.
Because I know in the provisional purchases, the other two sides would have had to do a survey at some point, and I don't know if that survey's been done, and this being the leftover, I just don't know if we're working off assumptions or not.
Through you, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, there's no reference plan, but there is like a plan where there's been the Hunter GIS program, they pegged off 60 feet. So I can't say with 100% surety that it could be a little less than, but we're attempting to make it the 60 feet.
If it was that this needed to come back, would we be charging the applicant for that, or is this something that committee or council, like, that's my
Yeah.
worry, is that we end up coming back because it's 58.4 feet.
Okay, then no, we wouldn't charge the applicant because we're saying that they have 60 feet. And then if it came back with less,
Okay.
then we would come back.
Okay, then I would be happy for us to approve this, and I would so move.
Seconder? Any further comments regarding this? Yes.
I just want to say, Mr. Chair, that I hope that under no circumstances will Councillor Jacken will try to climb some of those walls.
All in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we leave this topic, an auxiliary question to the planner. I'm looking at the map of this particular property, and I'm still confused. Where is the property that we talked about that was sold to a company that's coming in is going to make these mobile homes or something?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware of the actual location. If that's even happening, that would be economic development that would deal with that, the economic development department. And I'm not privy to those discussions and they would normally be in caucus with council, so I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Because I know I've been trying to locate it based on what the deputy mayor has indicated publicly on more than one occasion about this particular venture. And I thought that's where it was gonna go, but I don't know now. Okay.
I believe it's in caucus and there's,
Yeah, yeah, I
The-
understand.
Okay. Past decisions.
okay, so the housekeeping items, that zoning bylaw is going before council at their meeting tomorrow night. And the severance and the 2 minor variances for 1103 Bronx and 1105 Bronx Street, for semi-detached dwelling houses, they've been approved by this committee and they're past their 20-day appeal period, which ended on August 17th.
Thank you very much. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, September the 28th, 2026. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Myself, seconded by you. All in favor. Well, you don't need it.
Interesting.
Okay, wait, we're just gonna.
Yes.
turn off the,